platform that's designed to support and develop innovative approaches to woodland management, helping develop new tools and new methods of to support woodland owners and managers bring more woodlands into better management. So we're aiming to do three things really: demonstrate and share innovative tools. So that's what we're doing this evening. We are running a webinar, which is exciting. We sometimes run a demonstration events in person, but a webinar allows us to bring in international speakers and tools that are being used elsewhere in the world, and see whether they can support the woodland owners in the UK manage their own woodlands. So that's what this evening is all about. We also support other innovators, so those that are looking to develop their own woodland management innovative kind of applications, and we're developing our own tools. So part of the team that are working on this project include the Silver Foundation, who host the My Forest platform, which is a mapping tool to support owners and managers map woodlands. So they're developing their suite of tools to help woodlands be mapped more accurately and provide more support for woodland management plans and managing to the UKFS standard and that sort of thing. So as I said, there's a team of businesses and individuals working on this project. We're funded by the Forestry Commission Woods Management Fund, and it's hosted by Reheat, who are a multidisciplinary biomass engineering and forestry consultancy. And we've got other forestry experts as part of the programme as well. So leading into the topic that we're talking about tonight, measuring timber stacks using a digital tool. Why do we measure timber stacks? There's primarily kind of two reasons to measure stacks. One is for stock taking purposes, and the other is to sell timber by volume where weight bridges or scales are not available. I think the ideal situation is to sell by weight, but if you can't sell by weight because of local infrastructure, then you can sell by volume. Calculating volume can be quite simple, but there is a bit of variation within it. So in its most basic form, we take the length of the log stack, times it by the depth and by the height to give us kind of a volume of the stack. And normally that's done by taking off this one angular side of it there and popping it on the other one to make kind of a long cubic shape to calculate the volume. As you've seen from the pictures before, and as you'll know from looking at your own timber stacks, there are the gaps in between the logs that don't fit next to each other uniformly or snugly. So there's air spaces in between them, and that obviously poses an issue for when we're calculating the volume. So I might have a length of 60 meters, a depth of 2.5 meters, and a height of 5 meters, which could give me a volume of 750 cubic meters. However, within that stack, there's going to be gaps of air, and I need to account for this because I can't sell air to others, and they are not going to be looking to buy air from me. So we apply what's called a correction factor. There are other names and terms for this, but we're going to use the term correction factor this evening to account for the air spaces and the variation in log forms. So we might say that there is maybe 30% of airspace in a stack, at which point we're going to use the correction factor of, say, 0.7. So 70% of the stack could be logs, and 30% could be air. And that's more normal for straight or uniform logs. Non-uniform logs or bendy logs or variations in sizes will account for a different correction factor that we require to be used. It might be 0.6 and range in between those. So just thought I'd have a little bit of a game, a bit interaction in just a second. But there's obviously issues with this method in terms of it's subjective, so it's very much prone to my judgment as to what those airspaces are, and some would argue that's prone to error. There can be bias depending on your situation, whether you're a buyer or a seller, and for uniform stacks it's easier, and for non-uniform stacks it's harder. So if you're looking at stacks from woodlands that have historically been undermanaged, you might end up with greater variation in timber in your stack, and that's going to be quite difficult to estimate the correction factor that needs to be applied. So, as I said, a little bit of a game. We've got a stack here, and I just wonder whether you could pop into the chat what you think the correction factor that should be applied here is. So just type it in kind of a percentage terms to the correction factor that you think should be applied, and we'll see what everyone says. So the chat function should be either on the top of your screen or at the bottom of your screen. And if you just pop into the chat what you think it might be, then we can see what everyone thinks. I'll give you about a minute to do this. So we've got one guess of 0.55. Anyone else got a different estimate? There's no right or wrong answer here. It's very much, down to your own judgment of that image and how much space you think is between those logs. So we've got a higher guess of 0.7. We'll give it a few more seconds to see if anyone else wants to guess the correction factor to be applied just here to this stack. Oh, 0.75. Is anyone going to raise on 0.75? Got a 65%, and we'll just wait for Emily to pop in and her guess, and then I'll let you know what our forester Will Richardson and what he thinks this is. And so we've got 0.6 there. So Will would say that this has a correction factor of 70%, so 0.7. And this is, you can see there that they're all uniform logs, fairly similar sizes. And so the air spaces between them are relatively repetitive in terms of size. We're going to try one more, and then we will move on to hopefully a tool that will improve the accuracy of our guesses. So looking at this timber stack, if you could pop in your guess of the correction factor here, you can see there you've got timber of different variations in terms of they're not necessarily just round logs. There's some variation in form, but also variation in size. So if you just pop a guess in there into the chat again, and we'll see the variations that everyone has. Again, this is open to interpretation. Everyone's going to have a slightly different figure, and that's what tonight's all about. So please have a bit of a guess. Think about the air spaces between them, and we'll see what everyone thinks. I'll just give you another 30 seconds or so. So generally the guesses here are much lower, which should be correct given the fact that there are a larger variation in form and sizes. Again, Will Richardson, our forester, he's estimated here 60%, but he was very aware that others may have a different opinion. And this is where measuring timber stacks kind of manually by doing your length by your height by your depth and applying a correction factor can leave woodland owners or managers feeling a little bit lacking in confidence unless they've done it a lot in terms of the volume that's there. So what we are demonstrating this evening is a tool that Timbeter have developed to digitally measure timber stacks. So Brian, without further ado, I'll hand over to you and allow you to introduce yourself, the tool, and give us a bit of a run through as to how it works.
Thank you very much, Rosanna. Thank you everyone for being here to see what Timbeter is all about. My name is Brian Kasser. I'm the sales manager in Timbeter and have been also working with the UK for years. So then I will take you through a short presentation of ours, and then I will demonstrate our software and data management system to you. So to then begin with, that Timbeter is an end-to-end digital platform for sustainable forest management and meant for everyone that has anything to do with timber. So our forestry management solution consists of two parts. Then the mobile app for making and processing the measurements, and cloud storage with online inventory reporting and measurement editing capabilities. So then, first of all, Timbeter can be used by everyone and through the whole supply chain. That for private forest owners, they can just take the measurements in a forest and also when they're on the trucks for transportations. And afterwards, control measurements can be done in storages, in production, and transportation of final products. And all of this provides control over the timber origin, providing transparency. Then the transactions between buyers and sellers, provides a tool for internal and external reporting, simplifies logistics and transportation, helps to avoid any illegal activities that are problems in many places in the world, ensures sustainable forest management, and of course, improves safety of anyone who is measuring timber, and working also makes for better working environment. So how are we capturing the data? Is that you simply take a photo of timber pile or timber stack, in that case with your smartphone or tablet, whether it's on iOS or Android. Then we do the number crunching, providing you the exact location of the measurement, the volume of the stack, diameters of every single log, and the log count as well. Then all the measurements and the data will be available in the cloud in real time. And this data can be used to share with any necessary counterparts. So then, what are the key process benefits of using a tool like Timbeter? Firstly, time and cost efficiency. That all the measurements are done within minutes. That generally it can be range from let's say 20 minutes to half an hour to even several hours to measure one timber stack. But with Timbeter, it takes on an average 2 to 3 minutes, maybe even less for experienced users. There are no special skills needed. That, as mentioned, is for everyone. And especially people who do not measure timber actively or every day, just want to have a control tool of how much is coming out of their forest. They can just start using it and have the results in no time. Then, of course, ensuring the quality of results, providing consistent, transparent, and accurate measurements, and reducing any disputes between buyers and sellers through a digital proof of measurement. Then, of course, providing the real-time overview of measurements by them being available in the cloud. Then the data is very easily shareable with all the stakeholders by just a link or directly from the application. Then we are also very heavy on sustainability. That Timbeter is a paperless tool, which is something that is very much used in the industry. And also we're helping to reduce any environmentally harmful substances. So just as an simple example that one of our customers managed to this date, I think, save 150 tons of spray paint, which is a very, very significant amount. And finally, no extra hardware required, that you do not need to buy a special tablet or a device to use a software like this, that it can just be downloaded from App Store or Google Play Store and start using it. So then now we're getting to the features of Timbeter application, and to introduce more in depth of the easiest solution there is to measure roundwood digitally. So then what are our core functionalities? Then firstly, the diameter measurement, which is for obtaining, of course, the volume according to the volume calculation formula or equation, then the exact log count and diameters of every single log. And then we provide additional diameter distribution features there as well. Then the contour measurement, which is most similar to the example Rosanna showed earlier, that we just here look at the whole contour of the stack and apply the conversion factor there. Then providing the automatic or manual path contour, and the volume calculation is based on the surface area and applying the factor. And as well, the heights of the stack are it's possible to mark these. And then to support this previous feature, we have pile density measurement, which pretty much helps to find the factor, that what is the coefficient which helps to eliminate any air or bark from the stack. And how we do this is that we compare the whole area of the stack and every single log, and through that provide a coefficient. And finally, the truck measurement, which allows you to take a picture from the side of the truck and then measure each load on the truck and providing the total volume. And then here is a brief result overview that, of course, you will have the image with all of the diameters or the contour. Then you have the basic information about 3 species, quality classes, and assortments. Then, of course, the volume. And then with volume, you can also get a table that shows if there are any cull or defective logs, or if there are any different assortments within this stack. Then the average diameter, and of course providing the tally sheet to show how many logs account for each diameter. Then the exact log count, log length, then the reference for calibration, and the formula, depending on the method. And just a note here that here we see that the log count is 170 logs, but it doesn't matter if it's 1,700, it would still take roughly 2 minutes to measure. Then one additional feature that could be beneficial is extra images. That it's possible to take an image of any documentation, whether it's waybills or license plates, and connect it to the measurement as extra proof. Then when all the measurements are done with Timbeter's application, then the data will be uploaded to our dashboard, which is our cloud-based platform that provides real-time overview of the operations, enables measurement editing. Also, you can create reports and add custom information according to your needs. Then here is a brief overview how all the measurements are stored in the cloud. that even multiple devices can be connected to one account, and every single measurement made with these ends up in the same place, providing a better overview and easier management of your measurement results. And here is a result overview from our dashboard, where on the left you can see with the image also goes the geographical location on the map of the measurement and its coordinates, so it becomes very transparent. And then the same data that is captured with the application, and if anything needs to be adjusted, whether it's wood types or qualities or log lengths, then this can be done here. And then we have finished the presentation here, and I will now switch to the tablet so we can go through the application itself. So when you are downloading Timbeter's application and registering an account, this is the first thing you will see. The main menu, where you can either provide start measuring or view results. Unfortunately, I do not have a stack right here to take a picture of, but I will take you through the tutorial of how the process goes. Starting with the diameter measurement. So how we are calculating the volume here is that using the diameters and the length while adding this into the formula or volume calculation equation to get the final volume of the log stack. We have here, as an example, a cylindrical formula, but we have more than 20 different equations in our system to accommodate different needs. Then one mandatory thing with Timbeter is to always calibrate the measurement accurately. And for this, a reference object needs to be used. It can be either measurement tape or any measuring stick to determine the image scale. So the minimum requirement is 1 meter, and then it has to be placed on the surface of the stack. And then all of this determines the accuracy. So let's imagine that we just took an image of log stack. Then the first step is to set up the measurement data. Here is everything is already set up. So pretty much you need to enter the reference size, then the exact size, what you are using to then place on the surface of the stack, then the tree species, log length, and volume calculation formula. And based on that, the volume will be calculated. Then when we're happy with data, we can take the next step, which is the actual calibration part. As you can see, if I zoom in a bit here, that there is the reference object placed on the surface of the stack. And now this is 1 meter. And from these white markers, we need to move and place the markers exactly on the top and the bottom of the reference, which now tells us that this is 1 meter on the image. And once this is marked, then the next step is where we detect all of the diameters. So initially, we detect everything that we can see. But in this picture, there are multiple stacks, but we want to measure the one in the middle. So then we can filter out the area to eliminate everything that we do not want to measure by moving around these white markers and making sure that everything that we do not want to have detected is outside of the area. So now, once I press next, within a moment, everything else gets deleted. And then the final step is just fine-tuning the logs. That sometimes if any other circular objects or something from the background still is detected, or we need to add something, then we are able to zoom in and edit the logs by just tapping on these. So, and this allows us to move around the position of the log end or the diameter, and also adjust its size to be correct. And if we want to eliminate anything, then there's an empty space here, but still a diameter. For a fraction of a second, I'm holding my finger on it and it will disappear. And the same thing can be done with adding logs, as when I hold my finger here for a fraction of a second, our software is forced to see and measure this log. And now everything seems to be perfect in this image, and we can proceed to the final result. And here, as previously shown before, is the final result with all the data. And as I mentioned, you can open up a couple of tables that for 9 cubic meters volume here, if I press on this blue volume button, that will open up the table where you can see information about different assortments or defective logs if you add them. Then also under the volume, we have a slider that in any case, if you wish to see different log diameter ranges, you are able to just move this around, and everything that you do not want to have in the range is deleted. And this at the same time affects the volume and the counts as well. So let us restore it. And now looking at the average diameter, then if we press on this blue AV diameter, that will open up the tally sheet to see how many logs account for each diameter. Then of course the log length and the reference size. And now let us finish this tutorial, and I will now take you through the coefficient or finding the factor part, going to the fieldwood and coefficient and volume over the whole stack. So here we have taken a picture of this stack, and we'll measure the coefficient. So here, once again, once the picture has been taken, data has to be set up. So here, once again, we do not need to do anything, and the stack will be contoured automatically. So once I press save here, we'll go through the process again. And then, once again, I will mark the reference to calibrate it accurately. Then the next step is where we detect all of the diameters once again. And here, nothing needs to be adjusted, but now compared to the diameter measurement, final step is different, where we then add a contour to the stack as well. And all of this happens automatically. So we can see that here, actually, we are also able to adjust the contour, and we can pretty much draw on the screen. And let's say at this part here, on the right, we would want to adjust the area here. So if we start dragging this line from the outside and finish on the outside, the area gets smaller. So all of this can be done in order to provide more accurate coefficients and more accurate volumes. And once again, we have the final result. Base information is similar to the diameter measurement, but if we look at the very bottom left, there is a figure for pile density, which now gives us this factor. And here it tells us that the density here is 0.67, which means that then 67% of the stack is total amount of wood without any air and bark. So, and then once we have taken our measurements, we also have the view results section here, then which allows you to see all of the measurements that you have done, then their primary results, then seeing if they have uploaded or not. And then you can always come back to the measurements and have your proof for any kind of materials that you have taken pictures of. So here, perhaps also a couple of examples that we have capabilities to take panorama measurements as well. So here are a lot of logs detected, but if we reduce how many logs there are, then we can see that actually we measured quite a large stack here. So in total of more than almost 2,500 logs have been detected. And as well, if we go down from here, there is an option or an example for a truck measurement. So here we mark the heights for every single stack on the truck and provide their respective volumes. So then once all the measurements have been done with the application, then they go into cloud. And now without further ado, I will give you a brief introduction into that as well. So then, this is the main view that is seen when our dashboard is open. So it's very easy to get there once you have done your measurements. Just to go to dashboard.timbeter.com. And then firstly, you will have folders for your measurements. You can create multiple ones of these if you have more than one area of land where harvesting is done or where you need to measure the stacks at. And when pressing on these folders, or we call them storages, you'll see the list of your measurements with their base information. And now if we press on any of the measurement names, we are able to see the final result of it with the location on the map, then also who measured it, and all the data that comes from the application side. Then, if required, if there was a mistake, you are able to change it. And also, one of the options within our system is that it is highly customizable and you can create custom fields. Then I've created a couple ones here. So pretty much these can be named however a user needs, and even drop-down menus can be created where you can add values for example, license plate numbers or contractors. And of course, most importantly, you are able to click on the picture and open the measurement editor. So here is our example of the contour measurement, actually, which then is based on the tutorial that we did earlier on. And here we see the final result from the application side, but we are actually able to edit the measurement as well, changing the reference to make sure that it's calibrated correctly. So I can move this red line around, and also the area of this stack or the contour. So as we can see, if we zoom in from these white markers, we are able to move around the contour to make sure that we get most accurate volumes. So, and if we're happy to how it's looking, then we can save the result and proceed. And all of the measurements can be saved in PDF as well. So then you are able to get a report for your measurement. And everything can be shared as well, that you are able to generate a link for each of the measurements. And then additionally, if you wish to add any extra data in the dashboard, you are able to add extra tree species or quality classes that are not in our system by default, and add additional users or devices to your account. And I think that is mostly it from my side. Thank you very much, everyone. But to quickly add that here, that actually the UK is, or rather a question here, that UK being one of the main importers or exporters or importers from the EU. So if EUDR is a relevant factor in the business, or the directives is relevant there as well. And then also for everyone from that is going to download Timbeter, we are using 2 weeks or providing a 2-week free trial with unlimited measurements.
Thank you, Brian, for that, for the presentation and then also the demonstration of the tool. We have a short period now for questions and answers. So if you have a question, please do raise your hand. There's a little hand icon. For me, it's at the top of my screen, but it may be at the bottom of your screen. If you just click on that, your hand should raise, and then we'll invite you to turn off your mic. Turn on your mic and ask the question. But whilst everyone gets their thinking caps on for questions, I've got a question for you, Brian. What is the biggest or the greatest benefit that users see with your tool?
Well, I would start with the efficiency of the measurements. Of course, that I think some of our customers have reported that they reduced their measuring times 15 or 20 times compared to manual methods. And then when it comes to transparency and avoiding disputes, then speaking of maybe exporters, that they were able to then, while having no proof of measurement besides what is on paper and Excel tables, now across the world, they are able to share their results within a couple of clicks of a button. And pretty much when the opposite side sees the measurement, they have no doubt of what material and volumes they are getting. And of course, a brief example about sustainability that I gave, I think this affects the whole world, that the whole sector in similar fashion is still using such subjects as spray paint and paper. So we are able to help with eliminating all of that.
Your example of 150 tons of spray paint saved per year, that was quite extraordinary.
It's only one company.
Yeah, I mean, even so, it's still quite an extraordinary figure, I think, to be able to quantify that. Yeah, as you say, it's interesting, the variation of an impact. You know, it saves time, it improves confidence and engagement with other sellers and buyers and that sort of thing of timber stacks, but also you know, reduces spray paint and improves the environmental area around stacks. We've not got any questions that I've seen so far. If you don't want to raise your voice, you are welcome to put the question in the chat and we can read it out. But I have a list of questions for you, Brian, because I think it's quite an interesting tool. You touched briefly at the end there about species variation. You know, the pictures we were looking at the beginning showed very uniform stacks of timber, but if I had one or two or more species within my stack, how could I account for that with the Timbeter tool?
So the best option there would be that it's possible to, based on one image, to take multiple measurements. So we have an option that you can press when you go to final result and press measure again. Then you are able to conduct the measurement once more. Where you are, for example, when it comes to diameter measurement, you can filter out the logs that you do not want to measure and get the volumes for that specific assortment or quality class, or even a different species. But then regarding the species detection, this is not part of the solution yet.
Is it something you might be developing in the future, or is it still a work in progress? Because I imagine it's quite complicated.
Definitely looking into it and looking to implement a feature like this in the future.
It's exciting. I'll have to keep up with you and follow that development. I know that you've developed a lot of different applications on top of this Timbeter tool, and I'm sure anyone that's here goes to your website can see the variation of tools and support that you have available. We have a question in from the audience. How often do you correct misidentified logs and spaces as you showed?
Well, this is more of a rare case, as there are a couple of things that help making better measurements. One, of course, being camera quality and then the distance. But I would say very rarely, as we can provide error margins from 1.5% down to 0.5%. And all of the log detection, which is our strongest suit, that it happens within moments, and generally maybe when there are thousands of logs in one measurement, you could add a couple that are being very, very small, but generally should be a rare case.
I suppose the other aspect of it is that I mean, even if you're saying it's rare, but when it does happen, I suppose it's quite quick to perhaps correct that as well, maybe.
Yes, that's true. And just to add to that, always stacking quality helps with that. But even in case we see only half of the log, we are able to detect and measure this. But this is only the case of diameter measurement. When it comes to stack measurements or contour measurements, this would not matter.
Okay. I think there was another question about to appear in the chat, but it's yet to appear in front of me. You've obviously touched on the scale, and the tool is applicable to different scales, you know, to very, very large log stacks, and also much smaller ones. Who are your users typically, and you know, both kind of internationally, but also kind of in the UK? Are they smaller woodland owners, or are they larger woodland managers and that sort of thing? You know, who are your users?
Mm-hmm. So I think I would say here that it ranges between absolutely everyone. That we've seen private forest owners go and take a couple of measurements with Timbeter, get the results and provide great feedback. But then also SMEs, whether it's sawmills, pulp mills, or just harvesting contractors doing the measurements, and at the same time working with some of the world's largest corporations as well. So key players within the industry. So it definitely ranges a lot.
Oh, that's a huge variation.
I think hundreds of different use cases as well. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's the most important thing with these sorts of tools is, you know, our Northwoods Innovation Programme is looking at helping people to manage woodlands, and you know, in the UK, there's a lot of you know, all the larger woodlands and forests are generally managed, but woodland owners find it sometimes it can be quite difficult to bring in those smaller woodlands because of economies of scale. And fragmentation, and generally those areas are much smaller, so you're looking at smaller operations, smaller sales, and that sort of thing. Not necessarily, but often. And so it's always useful to have a tool that is scalable to different owners, and it provides, you know, if you're a contractor, you can perhaps use a tool as well across different clients. It doesn't mean that it is only one tool for one type of client. So I think that's something that we were quite excited to see when we came across it earlier in the year, and we spoke to you earlier, the fact that it's a scalable tool for different people, but looking to solve similar problems. Does anyone else have any other questions? I think I can come up with one or two more, but yeah, if no one's got anything in particular. So you mentioned earlier, Brian, that it could be used on Apple and Android phones and tablets. Is that correct?
yes, absolutely.
So it doesn't matter because I know that there are other applications that some, you know, need a certain level of software or a certain level of phone. So, but it can be used across everything. The big question, Matthew's gone ahead and asked it: how much does it cost?
So we have different options. So first of all, we have measurement packages ranging from 10 to 200 measurements. And then we have monthly and annual subscriptions. So now, speaking of measurement packages, then they range from 10 measurements starting at 27.90 in euros, and then 200 measurements being 299.90. And then our monthly subscription is 195 euros a month per device, and annual is 1,950 euros a year per device, which means that with subscription you get unlimited measurements, so no cap whatsoever, and then many additional features compared to the picture-based one.
So you've got different packages there for different users, and depending on the number of users, I suppose, within maybe within a team, and then also, you know, if you're taking maybe 10 or you know, limited. Thank you for that question. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Yes, I just wanted to add that the quick conversion for you, that is then around 170 pounds a month per device. So then we have correct figures here. Correct.
Yes. I suppose the variation isn't that large any longer, which is yeah, but that's helpful to have in pounds, so thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? I think we've probably got time for maybe one or two more questions. And there's nothing coming from the audience, but they're all still here, so I presume they're interested. You mentioned about bark. Does a tool typically, when you take a photo of it, does it typically include so over bark or kind of under bark? You know, does it include the bark, or do you then have to go around and say what your preference is as to over or under?
No, we always measure under the bark. So we detect more than 2,000 points on every single log, and always look at the log and under the bark.
That's useful to know. And then for just to define, over bark is obviously including the bark, and under is obviously just the stem wood itself, with not including bark. I've got we've got a comment in from the audience. Thank you, Hester. She says the tool looks great. Thanks for the presentation. It's very clear, so there are no questions. We've done a good job in explaining the tool and its uses and its applications. So thank you. If no one else has any questions, and Brian, I don't know if you've got anything finally to add.
Yes, definitely, to encourage everyone to try it out, and then download it and get the opportunity of the free trial. And we're always excited to get any kind of feedback.
Well, there we go. So we will send out the link to the recording of the presentation, and we'll send out the links that will help you access and look at the Timbeter website and to have a go with the free trial, if that is of interest to you. And we'll also send out an evaluation form just to ask you how you found today's webinar, whether you found well, we've had some feedback already. You know, the presentation was very clear. So please do let us know your thoughts on it, but also if you've got anything that you'd like the Northwoods Innovation Programme to run in the future. We are running another session with Brian and with Timbeter on Thursday evening, which is more designed at forestry professionals. So it will go into the suite of Timbeter tools kind of more broadly, and look at the scalable application of those for those that are perhaps not small woodland owners or just woodland owners in general. So you're welcome to join us again on Thursday at 5 o'clock if you want to hear more about it and more about a slightly more in-depth demonstration. Otherwise, I'd just like to say thank you very much for joining us. I hope you have a nice rest of your evening, and please do get in contact with myself, with Brian, and we look forward to seeing you at more Northwoods events in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.